After dancing his way into our hearts, he disappeared into agonizing quiet. Behind the charm and celebrity, Patrick Swayze had to endure a terrible battle that ended too soon, leaving behind a stunning property that is now deserted and stuck in time. This is a compelling, sad tale of a star who died far too young, complete with his unshakable link with his cherished wife, the emotional toll of his untimely death, and the startling revelation about his wealth. Let's find out what he left. California's San Fernando Valley is home to Rancho Bizarro and Silmar. At the height of his celebrity in the 1980s, Patrick Swayze and his wife Lisa Nee purchased a tranquil equestrian estate in the northern Los Angeles community of Silmar, which is surrounded by rolling hills, dispersed throughout four. In homage to their mutual sense of humor and strong bond with the unconventional, free-spirited way of life they loved away from the limelight of Hollywood, the pair affectionately dubbed a 5-acre property Rancho Bizarro. The focal point of the estate is a lovely ranch-style main home from the 1940s that is over 3,500 square feet in size and combines comfort, personality, and rustic elegance. The interior design of the 3-bedroom, 5-bathroom house is both comfortable and practical for a couple with strong ties to the arts and animals. With its exposed wooden beams, cathedral ceilings, and warm rich wood paneling, the main living area exudes a rough sophistication. Inside, a distinctive antler chandelier hangs from the ceiling, signifying the ranch aesthetic and the owner's love of the outdoors, while the stone patios immediately outside carry the inside beauty outdoors. Given that Lisa is an actress, writer, and licensed pilot, and Patrick is an actor and trained dancer, the estate was thoughtfully designed to accommodate both their personal and professional interests. One of Rancho Bizarro's most notable features is Patrick's private dance studio, which he used to practice choreography, particularly in the years following his breakthrough performance in Dirty Dancing. For Swayze, this studio was a creative haven where he could move freely and re-establish the physical discipline that characterized so much of his artistic expression. Their mutual passion of animals and the great outdoors is reflected in the ranch's extensive equestrian facilities, 2 sizable arenas for training and riding, an attack room, grooming and laundry facilities, and 11 horse stalls are all part of a big barn complex. Ducks and goats were among the many animals the couple welcomed onto the farm over the years. Many of them were jokingly named after Patrick's favorite movie, Dirty Dancing. The glassed-in atrium, which creates a peaceful indoor-outdoor atmosphere, and the free-form swimming pool, which is perfect for entertaining guests or relaxing, add to the estate's distinctive character. Additionally, there is a guest cottage that provides guests with a secluded haven and enough room to host family or friends for longer stays. Rancho Bizarro was more than just a house. It was a really private sanctuary. Their goal to create an environment free from the demands of stardom and representative of their true selves was reflected in the name itself. While still being close to the city, the land gave them the opportunity to foster their creativity, take care of animals, and get away to nature. Lisa Nam stayed on the farm for a few more years after Patrick passed away in 2009 after a valiant fight with pancreatic cancer, protecting the memories and the tranquil haven they had created together. She closed a major chapter in her life in 2015 when she sold Rancho Bizarro to philanthropist Eileen Getty for about $2.9 million. Public interest in the house, once occupied by one of Hollywood's most adored celebrities, was rekindled in 2023 when the estate was put back on the market with an asking price of $4.5 million. Rancho Bizarro, which has been around for decades, is nevertheless a potent reminder of Patrick Swayze and Lisa Nemi's enduring romance, creative legacy, and genuinely grounded life away from the spotlight. Patrick Swayze and Lisa Nemi decided to sell their cherished mountain refuge for almost $2 million in 1997, after years of fleeing to their serene Lake Arrowhead house. The couple had long considered Lake Arrowhead, tucked away in the San Bernardino Mountains, to be a haven where they could get away from the pressures of Hollywood and re-establish a connection with the natural world. The couple's strong love of the outdoors, peace, and alone was mirrored in the property, which was frequently characterized as charming and quiet. Their property in Lake Arrowhead had served as more than just a place to go on vacation. It served as a haven. Its warm lodging atmosphere, with fireplaces roaring in the winter and the tall pines around the house offering year-round peace, was praised by both friends and guests. During the hectic years of Patrick's fame in the late 1980s and early 1990s, especially after the explosive success of movies like Dirty Dancing 1987, Ghost 1990, and Point Break, 1991. It was the ideal getaway. However, by the middle of the 1990s, Patrick and Lisa started to reconsider their goals and areas of focus. The Los Angeles Times reported in 1997 that the couple decided to sell the Lake Arrowhead house in order to focus their life on two other properties that had greater personal significance and long-term goals. Their 4.5-acre equestrian estate in Silor, California, was the first, referred to as Rancho Bizarro, with fondness. The second was a large new ranch in a different state, which signaled a daring new phase in their pursuit of more seclusion and a rural way of life. Long a pillar of the couple's lives, Rancho Bizarro was where Patrick and Lisa dedicated their energies to home remodeling, horseback riding, and peaceful household routines away from the spotlight. They were choosing to establish themselves in a location they had created together from the ground up, one that symbolized their shared passions and creative freedom. By concentrating more on this estate, with horse stables, a private dance studio, and rustic architectural elements, it was more than just a house. It was a thoughtfully designed haven that combined Lisa's love of animals, riding, and flying with Patrick's love of nature and physical activity. Their purchase of a ranch in a different state, however, suggested that they were beginning to yearn for even more seclusion, and maybe a life outside of California. At the time, information about the out-of-state property was largely kept confidential, but it was known that the new ranch provided panoramic views and a lot of space, making it perfect for horseback riding, caring for animals, and living with a sense of unrestricted freedom. The move also represented the couple's slow shift away from the fast-paced lifestyle of Hollywood and toward a more subdued, grounded way of living. A large 20,000-acre Arabian horse ranch just north of Las Vegas, New Mexico, was one of the most significant and expansive properties ever owned by Patrick Swayze and Lisa Niemi, according to Lisa Nim's memoirs and other biographical and journalistic sources. Not long after Patrick finished filming Red Dawn, 1984, which featured scenes filmed in the untamed landscape of northern New Mexico, the couple bought this stunning piece of land in the middle of the 1980s. The two actors saw the land as the ideal location to develop their fantasy of large-scale country living, because they were enchanted by its unadulterated beauty and attracted to the seclusion it provided. In no time at all, this ranch evolved into more than just a second house. It turned to become a haven for them. The expansive high desert terrain, far from the bustle of Los Angeles, gave Patrick and Lisa the opportunity to get back in touch with nature and rediscover what they cherished most: each other, animals, and privacy. Their life on the ranch were framed by towering mesas, expansive grasslands, and boundless skies, which gave them the emotional and physical freedom that Hollywood rarely permitted. Even among celebrity properties, the New Mexico ranch stood out for its unique function as an Arabian horse breeding facility, in addition to its enormous size, a passion that Lisa and Patrick both share. The couple spent a lot of time, effort, and money creating a respectable program, because Arabians were their favorite breed and were known for their brilliance, beauty, and enthusiasm. They established a functioning ranch operation that demonstrated their profound regard for the animals and the way of life by raising, training, and breeding horses on the property. Patrick was quite active. He was frequently observed riding on the open range, helping with feed, or mucking out stalls. Lisa explained in interviews and in her memoir, Worth Fighting For, how the ranch in New Mexico was their real haven, a place where they could both unwind from the never-ending pressures of celebrity, and where Patrick could find spiritual serenity. Lisa once remarked that he was a cowboy at heart, and he might be that man out in New Mexico. The ranch was more than just a place to stay. As the setting for some of the couple's most private and memorable moments, it was also emotionally meaningful. During Patrick's valiant fight against pancreatic cancer in 2008, he and Lisa made a very special trip back to the ranch. On their 33rd wedding anniversary that year, they reaffirmed their vows in a heartfelt and intimate ceremony on the property they cherished. In addition to expressing their unwavering love, the act demonstrated how revered the ranch had become in their shared past. According to friends, it was one of Patrick's most treasured memories from that trying time in his life. Let's now discuss Patrick Swayze's private life, a deeply ingrained, decade-long friendship based on respect for one another, artistic passion, and emotional fortitude. He and Lisa Niemi have one of Hollywood's most enduring love stories. Long before celebrity took their photo, the couple first met in 1970. Lisa, then 14 years old, was a ballet student of his mother's, and Patrick, then 18 years old, was the son of dance instructor Patty Swayze. What started out as a friendship between teenagers gradually developed into something strong and enduring. They were married just 5 years later, on June 12, 1975, and remained together for 34 years, until Patrick's tragic death in 2009. Lisa and Patrick had always dreamed of starting a family, but they never did. They went through grief together, including Lisa's one miscarriage, which she hardly ever discussed in public. Lisa later discussed in interviews how that tragedy impacted their relationship, bringing them closer together and strengthening the emotional ties between them. Rather than becoming parents, they focused their energies on artistic endeavors, shared interests such as horseback riding, and led a life that alternated between dancing studios, movie sets, and their cherished ranches. Patrick frequently called Lisa his inspiration. His 1987 hit song, She's Like the Wind, which he penned years before for a shelved film project, but eventually featured in Dirty Dancing, is the best example of it. Swayze freely admitted in a 2008 interview that Lisa served as the song's inspiration. The song's emotional tone, wistful, reverent, and vulnerable, reflected Patrick's perception of Mary as his spiritual partner and a source of stability. Despite his outward charisma and self-assurance, Patrick frequently struggled with identity issues and inner uncertainties, many of which were a result of his Texas background. He talked openly about his emotional complexity in an interview from 1989. "I've always had the feeling that something was different, but I was afraid to search for it for fear of finding nothing." Over the years, he experimented with several religious systems. As a result of this enduring spiritual yearning, he participated in therapy, transcendental meditation, EST, and Erhard seminars training. But he finally discovered the spiritual support he had been looking for in Soka Gakkai Buddhism, a Japanese branch of Nichiren Buddhism. He was given a foundation for inner development by the community practice, the daily chanting, and the personal empowerment ideology. Swayze would subsequently state that one of his fundamental principles was to investigate many religious traditions, both for their personal significance and for the way they aided in his understanding of others. He felt that respect for all religions was essential to one's own development. When Patrick's father, Jesse Wayne, passed away unexpectedly in 1982, tragedy affected him hard. Following the tragedy, he battled alcoholism for 10 years, during which time he experienced sadness, disorientation, and self-destructive inclinations. He went into rehabilitation in the 1990s and came out of it more reflective and resolved to start over in a more sedate way. He distanced himself from the spotlight and spent more time at his ranches in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and Sealer, California, where he and Lisa raised Arabian horses, a hobby that provided them happiness and healing. Tamman, a chestnut Arabian stallion with a proud statuesque gait, was his most well-known equine. Patrick loved Tamman and frequently referred to him as a symbol of strength and elegance, which were traits he himself hoped to possess, particularly as he aged. As Swayze looked for serenity via honest effort and animal interaction, ranch work turned into a physical and emotional therapy. Lisa was his rock through it all. Cancer, recuperation, highs and lows in their careers, and intense spiritual exploration were all part of their relationship. Even in his latter years, Patrick acknowledged that Lisa was the most reassuring influence in his life, stating that her courage, love, and faith in him lifted him out of his lowest points. By all accounts, their love was unique, both in terms of how long it lasted and how deeply it overcame hardship. As he once remarked, "She's not just my wife, she's my partner, my soulmate, my everything." In addition to being a successful dancer and actor, Patrick Swayze also held an FAA license as a pilot with an instrument rating, which reflected his spirit of adventure and passion for the sky. He and his wife, Lisa Nemi, who was also a skilled and certified pilot, had a long-standing passion for flying. They frequently flew between their homes in California and New Mexico, finding freedom in the aircraft together. However, the flight was not without both real and metaphorical turbulence. Swayze made news across the country on June 2000 following a spectacular and unplanned emergency landing in Prescott Valley, Arizona. He had been traveling from Venice, California to Las Vegas, Nevada in his twin-engine Cessna 414, tail number and 414 PS, alone with his 2 dogs. The aircraft experienced a pressurization issue throughout the journey, which may be very hazardous at high altitudes. Swayze chose to descend cautiously after realizing the danger, eventually coming to rest on a dirt road inside a residential complex. It was a tough landing. Amazingly, he and his dogs were unscathed, when the plane's right wing struck a light post. But what happened next made the story more difficult to follow. According to witnesses, he seemed drunk at the scene of the disaster and reportedly asked for assistance, taking an open bottle of wine and a 30-pack of beer out of the plane. These reports sparked a lot of conjecture and media attention, particularly in light of his prior alcoholism issues. Swayze allegedly made himself unavailable to authorities for a number of hours after the incident, which exacerbated the situation and fueled more rumors. However, many of the misunderstandings were cleared up by a subsequent study. The National Transportation Safety Board's final conclusions indicate that alcohol was not a contributing factor in the collision. Claims that Swayze had consumed alcohol while flying were denied when it was revealed that the wine and beer were in external storage compartments that were inaccessible during flight. Rather, the investigation concluded that hypoxia, a severe condition brought on by insufficient oxygen, was the most likely cause of the incident. His altered behavior and disorientation following the emergency landing were likely caused by a combination of carbon monoxide exposure from engine exhaust byproducts and his own excessive tobacco usage, according to investigators. It served as a terrifying reminder of the risks that pilots, despite their years of training and qualification, may encounter. Evidently, the difficulties in aviation didn't stop there. He and Lisa had another in-flight incident on December 27, 2006. During their flight in the same Cessna 414 this time, the pair was climbing out of Venice on their way to their ranch in New Mexico, when the plane lost power and then the right engine completely failed. Lisa, who was in the pilot's seat, demonstrated her competence and poise by performing a successful emergency landing back in Van NY while remaining composed under duress. Patrick and Lisa decided it was time to retire the ancient Cessna after this second scare. Through their aircraft business, Prop Jocks, Incorporated, in June 2007, upgraded to a Beechcraft Super King Airtail N400 Kai, a more dependable and effective twin turboprop aircraft that is safer and more powerful. With a renewed focus on safety, the action demonstrated their ongoing dedication to aviation. Notwithstanding these terrifying events, flying continued to play a significant role in their common identity and as a symbol of trust, freedom, and escape. Patrick saw the cockpit as a different kind of theater that required bravery, discipline, and intuition. He possessed these traits throughout his remarkable life, not only as a pilot. Just after finishing the pilot episode of his gritty television series, The Beast, in late December 2007, Patrick Swayze started to feel a persistent and disturbing burning sensation in his stomach. At first, the demanding shoot dismissed the ache as being caused by exhaustion or intestinal problems. Soon after, the discomfort became more severe, indicating a much more serious problem, a blockage in his bile ducts. This issue was the first warning sign of a disease that would drastically alter his life's course. Just a few weeks after he began exhibiting symptoms, Swayze was devastated to learn that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. By mid-January 2008, the prognosis was dire because the cancer had already spread outside of the pancreas. Particularly when it is so advanced, pancreatic cancer is infamously aggressive and challenging to cure. Instead of avoiding the spotlight, Swayze faced the diagnosis with the same dignity and determination that had characterized his professional life. He went to Stanford University Medical Center for treatment, where a group of experts started him on a chemotherapy program and an experimental medication called Vadalanib. The goal of this drug, which was still in the experimental stage at the time, was to prevent antiangiogenesis, the process by which cancers grow and spread, by blocking the formation of blood vessels. When used in combination with chemotherapy, Vadalanib was thought to delay the cancer's growth and buy time. A Reuters story published on March 5, 2008, gave some hope by stating that his disease seemed to be confined in scope and that he was reacting favorably to treatment. In order to rectify inflated media accounts, his doctor also released a statement assuring the public that, although the diagnosis was grave, Patrick was not near death, as several tabloids had falsely stated. Despite the health problem, Swayze stayed active and dedicated to his job, demonstrating his unwavering determination. He refused to let the illness define him and pushed on with the beast, doing his own stunts for the pilot. He persisted despite the harsh effects of chemotherapy on his body, because he wanted to prove to the world that he wasn't giving up. New waves of tabloid speculation surfaced in early May 2008, claiming that Swayze underwent surgery to remove a portion of his stomach because the cancer had spread. According to these rumors, He also changed his will to give all of his possessions to Lisa Nami, his wife of more than 30 years. Although the couple never made public confirmation of these details, intimate friends admitted that they were making the required arrangements, while still concentrating on his recuperation. Later that month, Patrick made his first public appearance since the diagnosis at a Los Angeles Lakers basketball game, despite the never-ending barrage of articles that predicted the worst. Supported by supporters who praised his courage, he looked slender but happy. He then confirmed in a public statement on May 28, 2008, that he was still receiving care at Stanford, and that he was responding well to treatment. Swayze was sounding more upbeat by June 2008. In several interviews, he spoke to the positive outcomes of his therapies, and even voiced cautious optimism, stating that he felt as though he was defeating the illness. Even though Patrick knew he had a tough struggle ahead of him, his determination remained unwavering. He persisted in fighting, not only for his own survival, but also for the opportunity to motivate those who were suffering from the same disease. With every appearance, every performance, and every stride forward, Patrick continues to defy the odds and never loses his will to live or his dedication to his work. His public battle with cancer served as a potent example of his bravery and sincerity, which had always distinguished him as more than just a Hollywood star. Nearly 9 months into his highly publicized fight with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, Patrick Swayze made a stunning presentation in September 2008 that moved millions of Americans. He appeared on the ABC, NBC, and CBS simulcast of Stand Up to Cancer, a well-known televised fundraiser that aims to bring people together in the fight against the disease. As he stood in front of the cameras, the audience and his peers gave him a standing ovation. He was noticeably leaner, but exuded strength and grace. As a man facing death with extraordinary dignity, not as a movie star, he offered a vision of optimism in his succinct but powerful speech. It was a turning point that went beyond fame, and I hope that the phrase cure will no longer be followed by the phrase it's impossible. Patrick Swayze wasn't only promoting money for research. He was contributing his voice and vulnerability to a battle that millions of people were facing. Delivered with quiet passion, his message encapsulated the faith, pain, and urgency that cancer patients worldwide well understood. Swayze lingered on stage to talk with other cancer patients and survivors after the event concluded, and the cameras stopped filming. One of them was executive producer of events, Laura Zieskin, who at the time was fighting advanced breast cancer, a battle she would tragically lose in 2011. Their interaction was a very human experience, rather than merely a gathering of prominent characters. Two fighters united by a shared experience of suffering, fortitude, and the will to transform adversity into transformation. However, tabloid speculations grew more intense as Swayze resumed his treatment and made public appearances. His cancer had progressed to his liver, according to dramatic headlines in December 2008, indicating a sharp decline. Swayze quickly refuted the reports and urged the media to exercise responsibility and restraint. Actually, he was still receiving intensive care and making every effort to control the illness. He had one of his most open discussions about his illness in public when he sat down with Barbara Walters in January 2009 for an emotional chat. Swayze, who remained calm and collected, acknowledged that medical professionals had discovered a little lump in his liver, but stressed that it was neither a clear indication of improvement nor a hint to give up. He wanted everybody to know that he was still going strong and battling to the end. Walters also inquired as to whether, in addition to conventional chemotherapy, he was seeking alternative or holistic therapies. Swayze clarified that he was not depending on Chinese herbs as a remedy, even if he admitted to using some of them. He actually expressed his annoyance at people who advocated untested alternative treatments, devoid of scientific backing. He warned anxious patients not to be duped, saying clearly that there is a lot of snake oil out there. His stance was surprisingly well-rounded. Although he was rooted in the reality of evidence-based therapy, he was receptive to the therapeutic potential of complementary medicine. Even though his own health was still in jeopardy, he remained a strong advocate for the values of clinical research, medical knowledge, and public accountability. Despite extreme physical exhaustion, Patrick never ceased speaking up for others, who are silently battling cancer, as well as for himself. He turned his personal battle into a larger cause through interviews, public appearances, and private behind-the-scenes actions. Instead of retreating into solitude, he stood as a beacon of bravery, kindness, and unwavering hope by using his last years to give voice to the voiceless. Patrick's valiant fight against stage 4 pancreatic cancer took a significant turn in January 2009. As he approached the last year of his life, Swayze was admitted to the hospital on January 9th due to pneumonia, a typical but serious side effect of chemotherapy. Months of rigorous therapy had depleted his immune system, making him susceptible to infections. His followers and the media were shocked by the pneumonia, raising fears that his health had drastically deteriorated. Swayze was discharged from the hospital on January 16th, following a week of treatment and observation, and he went home to recuperate under the watchful eye of his wife, Lisa Nemi. Swayze remained optimistic and adamant about regaining some form of normalcy, in spite of his weakness. Throughout every stage of his health journey, Lisa, his spouse of over 30 years, served as his emotional support system, nurse, and companion. The relief was brief, though. Following several months of ups and downs, Swayze was told by doctors on April 19, 2009, that the cancer had returned, this time to his liver. The news was awful. Even though he had bravely endured several rounds of chemotherapy and taken part in trials of novel medications like Vitalib, the illness had persisted in its unrelenting progression. The prognosis was worse than before because liver metastases frequently indicate the last stages of pancreatic cancer. His personal habits, especially his history of excessive smoking, were scrutinized more during his sickness. He had smoked for 40 years and had admitted to smoking up to 60 cigarettes a day during the worst of his addiction. In interviews, Swayze freely admitted that his cancer was probably influenced by his chain smoking. Nevertheless, he kept smoking while undergoing therapy, a behavior that worried both fans and medical experts. Swayze, however, found it almost tough to give up the support that smoking had long offered due to the psychological and physical toll of fighting cancer. He tried to control it, but it was one of the few things he couldn't. In spite of everything, Patrick managed to persevere for almost 20 months following his diagnosis, much longer than the typical survival period for pancreatic cancer in stage 4. With silent dignity and unwavering determination, he bore the agony, the therapies, the operations, and the public conjecture. His last months were mostly spent at home with his loved ones, particularly Lisa, who was by his side constantly. At the age of 57, Patrick Swayze passed away on September 14, 2009, surrounded by his loved ones. Soon later, his spokesperson told CNN the reason of death: carcinoma of the pancreas. Fans worldwide, co-workers, and fellow performers who had respected not just his skill, but also his moral character and perseverance, expressed their sorrow at the news. Regarding Patrick Swayze, what are your thoughts? Please share your thoughts in the space provided below. We hope this video has been useful to you. If you enjoy it, remember to subscribe to the channel, share it, and give a like. I appreciate you viewing, and I hope to see you in the upcoming videos. Farewell.